saying it is kind of connected, but the third one is based in an alternate universe, so it kind of doesn't matter. Where the first one is underwater, this one is in the air. Oh, that's pretty cool. Right, so what did I miss? Alright. Yes, bro, gotta stay. Content says yes, bro, gotta say bully for dead though. That shit can't right. I can't endorse that, but it's a pretty funny comment. T says if you're getting bullied, never hide it from people. It's always best to speak to people who you trust. Yeah, I agree with that, T. I definitely agree with that. But sometimes it can be very difficult for people to actually process the emotions that they're dealing with and be actually like articulate the problem, right? Because sometimes what a problem when a problem arises is very hard to actually not like analyze it, but like compact the whole problem in a way where you can describe it, especially if you struggle with speaking anyway. So it can be hard to contextualize the problem. That's what I mean. And then when you struggle to contextualize the problem, you're going to struggle to actually tell other people the problem without it sounding less important than it actually is to you. It's hard to describe, but I definitely agree with that. Talk to people who you trust if you can, 100%. Uh, Tunde Aleru says, "What if your bullies are GMs? Do you mean general managers, Tunde?" Ellis says this game is goated. Love this Bioshock. It's pretty good so far. Oh wait, it's something shooting. Oh, he's there. All right, back to the comments. So, Kyford says, "Always fight back. You're nobody's punching bag." I agree. If you can do it without physically fighting back, I advocate for that too, right? But always protect yourself, right? Well, not just yourself physically, but yourself mentally, because the mental health is what lasts a lot longer. Like the mental scars of things that happen to you last way longer than the physical, right? A little bit of physical pain hurts in the moment, but it goes away. But psychological pain can last a whole lifetime, right? So definitely fight back in the best way you can. What's going on, Keenan? How you doing, bro? Your nan said completed full game plus DLC in one day. Such a goated game. It's alright. I don't know if I'd ever be able to complete it in a day. I'd have to like really be super locked in. No stream, no comments, no nothing. Astro says, "I've always said if you can't talk it out, always stand up for yourself and hit twice as hard." That's not bad advice. I got like, but yeah, like I said, guys, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm definitely not in any kind of way saying that you should go out and take physical retribution if there's other ways to resolve your problems, right? Unique says, "Nah, the first and the second were so much better than the new one." All right, yeah, we got the first and the second one on as well, bro. I prefer this one so far. I haven't played the second one yet, but I prefer this one because there's a lot more space, whereas the first one was so cramped. And oh, where's it want me to go? Up there, right? How do I get up there? One sec, guys. Not ignoring you. Just trying to progress the game a little bit. Ooh. Right. Star or Perez. The game is called Bioshock. T says, "Random question. Has anyone played DVD? Are you talking about Dead by Daylight? I've not played that yet myself." Slick at you. What PlayStation you on, bro? I'm playing on PS4 today. Usually we're on PS3. Tunde says, "General managers, is that a joke?" No, I don't know. I don't know. What is GMs? When you said GMs, what did you mean, Tunde? Slickachu says, "I see you play older games. You got a PS2?" Yes, I have indeed. Get on the old Lord. Oh, I do like the old Lord of the Rings games, yeah. Fun fact, Return of the King is something I used to play quite a lot on the PC. Now, the PC I was playing on, like, way back when I was a little kid, was so bad. It barely loaded that game properly, but yeah, that's a game I played quite a lot. I've got a Lord of the Rings on this console, but I rarely play it. See which one it is. Middle Earth, Shadow of Earth, right? It's been a while since they've released a Lord of the Rings game that I actually wanted to play. At least a Lord of the Rings that follows the main storyline and the lore anyway. But yeah, that's a good shout, Slickachu. Will says, "Unrelated, but do you watch anime?" Definitely do, bro. What's your top 5 or top 3 even? I definitely do watch anime. To be fair, if you check out my channel, Culture Crack on YouTube, there's a little documentary where I explain why I only watch anime, right? And I don't watch normal TV. So yeah, I'm quite the anime buff, if that makes sense. But I'm still not like deep in it, like I know everything there is to know, because it's impossible, you know. Toby says, "Have you played Bioshock One? Love that game so much. I got the same tattoos as the main character." Someone was in chat the other night, Toby. I said they got tattoos as well for Bioshock One. But yeah, I do have Bioshock One. I never knew that Bioshock was so influential. In all honesty, I had no idea. GB says one of the best one in the series. It's good so far. I can't lie. I am enjoying this a lot more than the first one. That's what I can say. I think we gotta go that way. Let's go that way. Kyford says, if someone bullies you verbally, hit first, they will stop after. I don't know if I agree with that, Kyford, but I understand your perspective. Boz says, aim. Yeah, I'm terrible. If playing games badly was a genre, I'd be like one of the top 10 of that genre. Haha! No more prayers for you guys, you villains. By the way, guys, I'm not just beating these guys up for nothing. They're the bad guys. Sash says, I really like 2. I haven't got to play 2 yet, but I will. I might even switch on 2 tonight when I get a little bit bored of this. We'll jump straight over to 2. Should I carry on going, or should I? Why not? Let's go to war. What we got? This. Oh, that got everybody. How do you cancel it out? I don't want to throw it anymore. Oh, it's too late. Yeah, I think it's Shadow of Mordor. I think I have. I might be wrong. It's the first one that I have, not the second one. It's pretty good, but it gets a bit repetitive. Slickerchew, I can't lie. It gets quite repetitive quite quickly. Keenan says Shadow of Mordor is goated by a long shot. Spidey, yeah, this is Bioshock. KD says every time I scroll past you, you're playing a banger. I can't lie. Appreciate that, KD. That should constitute a follow. I feel. Cyberpunk 2077. If you haven't played it yet, definitely worth playing. Slickerchew definitely played it. I was one of the first people to have it on disc when it first came out before it got a recall. Still have it installed now. As buggy as it is, I still like Cyberpunk, right? And it's worth a replay a few times. But I think I'm on my second replay. I was trying to do every single side mission this time, but I just got bored of it during the summer. Tunde, did I air your question? What was your question, bro? Oh, Tunde says he meant gang members, bro. When you say GM to me, I thought you were talking about general managers. So say your question again, Tunde. When your bullies are gang members. Oh, KD, appreciate that, man. Didn't know that.
And now, to repay a debt,
G19 is Bioshock Infinite.
But not all debts can be repaid, Booker.
You don't know me, pal.
Prophecy.
So, what if your bullies are gang members? You know what, Tunde? I actually don't know, right? So there can be an argument could be made, right? Well, because it's very subjective. I don't actually know your personal situation, so it would be really bad of me to try to give you like some life advice. So don't actually take what I'm about to say as actionable advice, but just consider what I'm saying, right? There's a few ways you can go about it. You could deal with it as like a normal civilian, right? If you have nothing to do with gang life yourself, nothing to do with criminal activity yourself, and you're just a normal person, law-abiding citizen, then I'd advise you to treat them like criminals, right? And just go the proper course of action through the police or whoever you need to speak to get that sorted out, right? Or some kind of mediation, right? If it's happening in school, use the school for mediation, etc. But if you don't want to go that way, right, where you don't want to go down the police route, like, because obviously, like I said, if you're not, you might still be a law-abiding citizen, but you're on a no snitching kind of thing, then consider talking to somebody that you trust, right? Who you know who's got a backbone at the same time and is not just gonna like just either rat you out or just abandon you or just misuse your trust kind of thing. If you get what I'm saying, talk to someone, see what their perspective on it is. If they know the people, if they know the people's elders, parents, older gang members, people in the community that can mediate for you, right? You could try that way. You could try verbally talking to these guys and just be like, look, bro, what you're doing is unnecessary because of X, Y, and Z, or like I'm not gonna have it, so you need to understand. No, see, KD says, or get yourself some gang member friends. No, see, I'd advise 100% against that because that's how gang warfare starts and rivalries go on for years, and innocent people get brought into shit that never needed to be involved, right? So G9 says, nah, don't snitch to the police. Well, it all depends, right? Like I said, if he's not involved in any gang member stuff himself, that is not snitching, right? Snitching is when you're doing crime with a friend or a group of people and you decide to tell the police about the crimes you're doing with the people, right? That is snitching, right? Anything outside of that is not considered snitching, right? So you need to really realize street codes, street ethics don't really exist. That's made up stuff and stuff people use to peer pressure you into not doing the right things, right? So remember that, keep that in mind, right? So if you can't do the routes I've just told you already, right, then consider, and it comes with a hefty cost, but consider direct confrontation, right? Beat the shit out of whichever one you can. I know this is I'm not advocating for you to do this. I'm giving you a plethora of solutions. Beat the shit out of whichever one you can. You might even lose the fight if you can have a straight up fair fight, right? But do your best, and then afterwards, see if they'll shake your hand and let it go, because you might earn their respect and you might actually be all right from that point on. But I can't actually tell you what to do if they're gang members. It's your life, and none of that is supposed to be actual advice, right? It's just some ideas of how to go about the situation, right? But I wouldn't advise you getting a gun or a knife and attacking anybody, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Or starting a gang of your own. But yeah, like of course, if your friends are gonna like back you up, then that's good to have a support system. But I don't advise you start getting involved with gang members and their violence. Like I said, there's other ways to go around it first. This says, "Hey, can I ask you something? I'm in this. Oh wait, sorry. I've ignored other people, right? So, Slickachu said, nah, don't do that. Go Muay Thai or take Taekwondo or Judo. Yeah, exactly. You could learn some self
You know
defense,
why?
even if you never actually use the self defense in a combat situation. Just the confidence that you're able to take care of yourself goes a long way, right? And it will break a lot of that social isolation that you deal with as well. Even though you may be on your own in certain places, like places before you were capable of defending yourself, you may not have gone. Afterwards, you'll be more comfortable, even though you can still take an L, being trained and all of that kind of stuff. But it'll just give you a little bit more self confidence in yourself, right? Remember, like 90% of humans don't actually know. Like, what do they say? 90% of humans don't have the manuals to use these, right? But the people that do are dangerous. So once you do have that manual, you should be even more inclined to avoid violence. But yeah, I do recommend some kind of self defense, right? Uh, so Diz says it's based around snitching. Go on, Diz. Tell us your scenario if you don't mind telling it to like however many people are in here and on YouTube. Katie says, nah, not as in get involved in gang affiliation, as in get yourself some mates that know them. Okay, yeah, that's what I said. If your friends will support you, that's okay, but you don't want to end up in a like a long protracted beef with people that probably live close by to you. It's silly. It's a waste of time. All right. Whereas if you like at some point in life you're gonna forget they even exist, but if you get dragged into it with them, then it's gonna be with you forever, right? Say it, Saiyajin, Saiyan. Which Bioshock is this? This is Infinite.
These men will die for me because I have seen their future in the glory. And
Right,
hence they
Slickachu said
attack.
that is the solution. If it can't be avoided, then it has to be dealt with. I agree.
Bring us the girl and
Slickachu
wipe away the debt.
Slickachu says always hit first. I don't know if I agree with that either, but okay. Console collector say, yo, bro, it's Mog, shadow banned on TikTok. What happened to you, bro? What happened to your account?
His innocent blood.
Diz said, about a year ago, a group of boys tried stabbing me. Feds came literally as it happened randomly and then bagged everyone, including them and me. Mog, I can see you in the chat. Tunde said, good advice, earn the follow. Appreciate you, bro. I'm not actually... Quick disclaimer, guys. Like, just so we're absolutely clear, I am not here to give advice on the situation. I just want to know people's takes, if they've ever dealt with bullying and how they went about dealing with it, or they know anyone else's. Everything I'm saying today is not meant to be advice. I'm just reading comments and giving my genuine responses to it. That's it, right? So don't sue me. All right, so yeah, Diz says he's continuing from the story above, right? If you guys want to scroll up and read what Diz said. He said, took me station, whatever. I didn't mention names or nothing, just said what happened, right? Then he
You've
goes
come
on to
to lead
say
my lab astray, but I
they want me
forget
to
that
go to
engineering
court this year
design
as the
has
victim.
twisted.
Parents
The
want me to
sons
go,
from
but I'm
which you
saying
came.
no 100%. This says I feel like sitting in a courtroom and getting someone nicked is just straight ratting, and that goes against all my morals. He goes on to say already got back on them, pulled up to their yards day after they tried stabbing me, so I don't care what happens. He goes. Sorry, guys, I'm not ignoring the other comments in between. I'm just trying to give you like the concise bit of what Diz is saying. He says happens to them now. I don't care if they get nicked or not, but parents want me to go court. All right, so I don't know. I don't actually know what to tell you in that one, Diz, because the first part is interesting on its own, right? Like, the first part is something complete. Like you could compartmentalize all of what you're saying into different scenarios, right, with different potential outcomes. But when you combine the whole thing you said together, so basically, some boys tried to stab you or whatever. Police came at the same time, nicked them and nicked you. You all went to the cell or whatever. You didn't tell their names, but they want you to testify in court as a victim. Rah rah rah. But then you go on to say, oh, it doesn't matter though because I got them back. Right now, I don't care what happens to them. So like I if you give me like a direct question on what you want to do, like what you're actually asking me on that, then maybe I can better think of a way to reply. But because there's so much there, it's like you had a problem, you dealt with a problem, but now you're questioning whether you should get involved further with the problem. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Uh, Mog, you're not shadow banned, bro. I can see you. I can see you on YouTube as well. So he says, I don't know, man. I keep getting striked after my first comment. It's probably because of your name, bro. Change your name. The first part of your name is a big red flag, right? So just consider that, right? Keith says, Diz, you're from Reading. You come from a good home. You're from Reading. You come from a good home with everything you want given to you. Is that so? How do you know him, Keith? Okay, so Keith's on here. Keith, don't bully Diz, right? This is a no judgment zone, right? So don't bully Keith. So don't like try to peer pressure Keith into doing something different than he would have actually done just by your influence on the chat, right? Because that's not cool, bro. All right, G19. uh says, nah, what kind of gang? Like from what country? Are you talking to me or are you talking to Tunde or Diz? Because they were the two people that had like kind of gang related issues. Jamie, the game name is Bioshock. If I could actually start playing the game. Alright, let me actually just do something so it's not completely going. Alright, 1 second, I'll get back to the comments.
Come back.
Oh, it's going down.
Holy shit.
Alright. Alright, I'm not ignoring the comments, guys. Just give me a little minute to progress the game a bit so the people that come for the gaming don't feel left out, because a lot of people come just to watch the game, in all honesty. They don't want to hear me blabbering about whatever the topic is, which I do get in the comments sometimes. Like, why are you talking so much? Play the game, right? So let me just give them what they want as well. It's only fair. Alright, 1 second. Alright, so we progressed a little bit. Maybe like 60 seconds of progression. Oh, didn't mean to send the crows, but that was pretty cool. Alright, cool. This room seems to be clear. Right, cool. Comments. Back to the comments. Right, the game name is Bioshock Infinite, bro. Console Collector said, nah, I charmed my name. Alright, so Stickerchew says, I mean, always hit first if you know they're going to swing. Never start a problem. Yeah, you should avoid a problem. But some, I guess in some scenarios, preemptive strikes can be important to prevent further violence, right, in the situation. So I understand it from that point of view. Slickerchew goes and say, but be the one to finish the problem. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to be up here advocating for violence and advising people to do things that can ruin their life, like, because it could always go wrong, right? Do you know what I mean? The best advice is to stay away from any kind of physical violence if you can avoid it, right? Solve it with intelligence first. Katie says, if you're not gang affiliated, being a snitch doesn't apply to you. By the way, that's kind of what I was trying to explain to him earlier, right? If you're just a civilian doing a normal, living a normal life, you're not involved in any criminal activities, you're not tied to criminals. You voicing your concern, right, is on behalf of your community, on behalf of your family, and it's technically on behalf of your country. Although, like street culture, which should have no influence on you as a normal civilian, and like TV and music and movies have you thinking like, oh, this gangster way of doing things is the right way of doing things. It's actually not, right? And it should only apply to the people that are in for a penny and in for a pound. Everyone else, it shouldn't apply to, right? So don't feel peer pressured into that, right? Some people might look at you as a prick, say you're a snitch or whatever, right? But it's only snitching if you're involved in crime with that person or those groups of people, and you're ratting out your co-defendants or co-Ds and friends. That is snitching, right? So just keep that in mind, right? And that's just one perspective of it. Someone else might explain it a different way. But that if you're not involved in that lifestyle, the term snitch should have nothing to do with you in the first place, right? But anyway, Barry says, I thought it said, how do you deal with bullets? Well, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? It could escalate to that. It could always escalate to that. All right, this says KD, yeah, but for me, it's not to do with gang code. What's in fashion is my morals. Right, so Diz, when you say it's your morals, right, that is actually something I want to touch on because it's quite important, right? All right, so how do I explain this without like absolutely like just turning your mind into mush, right? Or turning my mind into mush trying to explain it, right? What do you define as morals, right? Because it's a very vague and subjective thing, and you'd be surprised to know people for maybe we'll say maybe like 2000ish years now have been trying to describe and define what that means, and not just normal people. I'm talking about philosophers, intellectuals, theurgies, religious people, right, and even scientists to an extent define what is moral, right? Because it's very subjective, right? So I would ask you, what do you mean by it's against your morals? Riley says, I'm from North London, dealt with gangs trying to bully and harass me when I was young. How did you handle that, Riley? Star Talk says, I had a bully as a kid. My dad said not to come home till I dealt with it. I never got bullied after. Fair play. Like I'm assuming Star Talk that you may have been raised in like the 80s or the 70s, because that sounds very much like the type of parental advice that was just evenly dished out back then, even though it wasn't good advice. Uh, this says, yeah, my bad. It's hard to say it all with short text on TikTok. Yeah, I totally know. If you guys want to migrate over to YouTube, all you have to do is click the little YouTube icon on my TikTok channel, and you can talk. You can write to your heart's content on the YouTube comments, and I'll see them exactly the same as I see your comments right now. Like for instance, Console was saying, for real, if you aren't even affiliated with that kind of thing, it's not snitching. That's what he said over on YouTube, right? So KD says, Diz, your morals are based upon something, bro, but each to their own. Being alive is important. Well, yeah, right. Because what? All right. So here's a quick tidbit for anyone in the background or scrolling through that's not actually in the chat. You like just watching it. It says live at the bottom because I know that's what you do, right? Um, life is better with you here, right? Life technically doesn't matter if you're not here, right? And I'm talking to you, right? Whoever you may be, wherever you are, life is better with you here, right? So you should do whatever you can to sustain and have an enjoyable, livable life, right? I don't know if I'm saying that in the right way, but that goes for even if you're having homicidal thoughts or suicidal thoughts, right? Life is better with you here, right? So just keep that in mind. It is important to live, right? Without living, none of this even matters, does it? All right, so Diz says, either way, if I didn't go to their house, I wouldn't want them to be nicked. Right, so Diz, right, I'm not gonna lie to you, right? I do have a little bit of a problem with that part of your story, right? I understand that may have been something you just did in the heat of the emotion at the time, right? But when something happens out on the road, right, and you're like none of you are at your house, you might be in your local area, you might be in your local mall or whatever, and it happens there. I'm not telling you what to do, but ideally, right, if you could keep outside matters outside, it's never a good idea to bring trouble to someone's house, right? because at that point you're not only threatening them, you're threatening whoever they live with, you're threatening their neighborhood, you're threatening their neighbors, right? And some people will take that kind of threat to a whole nother level beyond what you thought was normal violence, right? So you need to keep that in mind. I would never recommend bringing any kind of beef to anybody's door, because you might get invited in for a cup of tea and never leave again, or you might get invited in for a cup of tea and never leave the same again, right? So remember that shit. I wouldn't advise you bringing trouble to anyone's door, even if they started with you. Do it in a smarter fashion than that. That's what I'd say. But it's each to their own, right? Diz, you said you had morals, like you know what I mean, you said you had morals, so just saying, right? Think about that. Riley said, ended up having a fight with one of the elders after that. He gained respect. Real men respect you. All right, so yeah, I hear that, Riley. That was kind of what I was explaining to Tunde, right? In one of the many scenarios of how things could go. But in the same token, and having a fight with some people are sore losers, right? And they can't take losing a fight. And even some people are sore winners, right? They win a fight and take it even further, right? So there is all, like, human nature is so effed up that there's no guarantees in anything. Like, you don't know what you're gonna do until you're in that situation, and you never know, right? So it's a sticky one. Console says 80s/90s were a different time, man. Parents didn't care where you were as long as you ain't dead or costing them money. Well, some parents, Console, I would say right now, yeah, like I had older parents as well, so I understand that. I heard that perspective from my older brother and my older sisters and my cousins, shit like that. So I saw that perspective, but luckily, right, over time, parenting has become better in some aspects and worse in other aspects over time, right? But like I said, there's people at the end of the day. Steg, yeah, it is Bioshock. Sorry guys, I should be playing the game. Tom Bird, thanks for the follow. Noah F, the game is Bioshock 2. Lewis says Bioshock is the best. Bro, the comments just start coming out of nowhere. Alright, so this says, I mean, I ain't in a gang, but all my mates are on road or shotting. I've shotted before, but still, I feel like snitching is just mad wrong. He goes on to say, oh, if you're straight civilian, yeah, but I ain't without trying to sound like I'm trying to sound hard. What? He says, obviously, if you're straight civilian, yeah, but I ain't without trying to sound like I'm trying to sound hard. Oh, I'm not quite sure what you mean there, bruv. Hey, none of that talk in the comments, KD, bro. Allow it. Yeah, I don't advocate for nothing to do with street life or drugs or drug culture and all that. I understand the lifestyle and why people turn to that, and the very numerous ways that it can end well and bad. But yeah, I don't advocate for none of that. So if you're saying that to me, you're as good as saying, well, I've chosen a path already. But it's not too late for you. You could also always change, right? Do something else. Why would you change and do something else for it's too late? Right? All right, so Riz, hey, what's going on, Ridley? So Ridley says, for Plato, morals and science were indistinguishable. Do you want to talk more about that, Ridley? Because I'd love to hear more about what Plato thinks in terms of morals, right? Because if we look at someone like Nietzsche and the genealogy of morals, right? There's very many great thinkers have dug deep into the subject to try and unearth what it really means, right? So there's different factions out there with that. That's what I could say.
Okay, sure I can get this thing going.
The Lord forgives everything, but I'm just a prophet, so I don't have to.
So this says against my morals. I mean, like, oh, Riv, it's Bioshock 3, by the way. This says against my morals. I mean, like, it's against what my heart thinks. Like gut feeling, if you get me. Yeah, I don't really get you, right? Because, well, maybe at a certain time in life I would have understood what you meant, but the older I get, the more I'm trying to lean towards being pragmatic and unbiased, right? And actually question myself. Why do I think what I think? And is it the truth? can I verify it to be true, right? Does it actually make sense? And to me, when you say something like your heart, automatically in my mind that goes in a nonsense box, because our hearts don't do anything but pump blood, right? It's just an organ. So yeah, like when we start talking about morals and things like that, it's very subjective, it's very personal, it's very individual. But just from a pragmatic, sensible point of view, none of that accounts for anything, right? Because it's all at the end of the day neurological. It's happening in your mind, right? And that's just the net of it, right? If that makes sense. Carrot, this is Bioshock 3, Mr. Players, Bioshock 3. Sorry guys. Gear XO says embarrassing stuff. Bunch of weirdos running around stabbing each other. Well, yeah, it can be seen like that, but at the same time, I was saying on the stream the other day, if we went back to ancient England, right, or ancient Europe before guns were invented, it was a bunch of weirdos running around stabbing each other, wasn't it? So not much has changed, realistically. Young men with weapons fighting for honor, fighting for things, right, fighting for services and goods. It never changed, right? It's just been So here, not to get too political, but at the same time, in modern Western countries the police have a monopoly on violence, right? That means they're the only ones sanctioned by the government that are allowed to do violence, and particularly violence to the civilians. But when civilians commit acts of violence, it's looked upon a whole different way, right? So you kind of got to use your mind. Yeah, it's kind of dumb, and I don't agree with kids running around stabbing each other because why? What for at the end of the day? But objectively, like I just said, from a pragmatic point of view, it's never changed, right? We just rebrand it every couple hundred years, right? So Bailey says, "How I dealt with bullies was just act like they never existed." That can be useful in some scenarios, Bailey. It can definitely be useful in some scenarios. Like as you guys get more into the adult realm of doing things, right? A lot of adults never actually grow up psychologically, and they do cowardly things. So sometimes ignoring people at a certain age, right? It encourages them to do more to see how much further they can push it, how much more they can get away with, right? So you have to be mindful when employing that tactic. That might actually be giving the bad people the green light to do worse things to you, right? So they will and of course I'm not saying you should be dangerous, but when people like that know that you can be dangerous or volatile, they will do their best to avoid ever confronting you directly, right? So keep that in mind as well. What's going on, Benjamin? How you doing, Benji, come over to the Culture Crack channel because I'm about to shut that stream down. Right, it's not getting shown in the algorithm, so I don't want to lose you, bro. But yeah, I'm gonna read out what you said. So Benjamin, I'm talking to Benjamin on YouTube. Benjamin is I think he served in the U.S. Marines, so he's got a pretty good point of view on things. He seems to be pretty knowledgeable in politics and psychology and even tech too. So his opinion comes with a little bit of a weight, a little bit of weight, right? Say it like that. So. Benjamin says, depends on the flavor of bully. I haven't been bullied in quite some time, but the last bully, in brackets, he says, 4 inches taller and almost 100 pounds on me. He says, I took a swing. I did not win the fight, but I also didn't get bullied again. And he goes on to say, that was in the army. Yeah, Benjamin, I am, but it's because it's in like shadow ban purgatory at the minute. It's kind of just a waste of internet bandwidth streaming over there. Sorry, no, yeah, he wasn't in the Marines. He was in the army. It was someone else that was in the Marines. Sorry about that, Benjamin. Yeah, didn't mean to mix you up. But yeah, I Benjamin, I'm gonna shut that stream down in a minute. I'm not gonna lie. So, Abish, thanks for the follow. Riley is talking to Diz. All right, guys, let me know in TikTok when you're talking directly to me. Kind of give me a hint so I know that you're not just replying to someone else, so I can actually see what you're saying. What's going on, Macro? How you doing? Uh, McCrow says, who people in England really have been running around stabbing people over honour and defence forever. Makes me think about roadmen in full plate armour, though. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, McCrow. When you actually zoom out and look at things and you give things different perspective, you actually see it's ridiculous, but it's nothing new, right? See, the only good, I wouldn't say good thing, but one of the smartest things about Europe and particularly like England and maybe some other countries is they nipped the gun stuff in the bud early from when they saw where it was going to go. But I don't think they nipped the gun stuff in the bud because of The civilian casualties, they nip the gun stuff in the bud for like insurrection purposes, revolution purposes, right? Assassination purposes, right? Even though I think it was like a school shooting or something like that that set it all off rolling, they squashed that shit early. But to my Americans watching, do keep in mind gun crime is a very big and troubling thing in England as well, right? It's never gone away. If anything, it's slowly on a rise still, right? People still have guns. People can still acquire guns legally and illegally in England, right? So it's not all muskets. But for the most part, where the younger kids are concerned, it's a lot of knife crimes, right? Because like I said, it never changed. It was always knife crimes, right? So there's that. Consul says, I think morals has almost nothing to do with science. If you keep someone in a room for years, I don't think they would have a bar for right or wrong, let alone morals. Found found all of mine came from my dad. That's an interesting point of view, Consul, because then you're so basically what you're saying, without any outside contact, right? It would be difficult for people to develop a moral point of view, or like I don't know. Now, I wouldn't say it would be impossible. So I'm just giving my opinion now on what you said because my mind's not all there with that, right? But it's a very interesting point, right? Because that's like nature, nurture, how we interact with others develops our moral compass, so to speak, right? But personally, I don't think morals actually exist. I just think it's societal norms meeting with social contract. Will we agree to do what's best for the whole group, right? So if we agree that it's a bad idea to rape, murder, and steal shit from each other, we can agree that we shouldn't do that to each other for the best outcomes for the whole group, right? So that's kind of where it comes from, right? But once that barrier gets broken, for instance, in positions like war, in positions like seizing countries and politics and stuff like that, like I said, some people have monopolies on those things we would call immoral, but they still do it, right? So you got to think about it like that. And where you said your morals came from your dad, what you're actually saying is your dad instilled a certain types of values in you, a value system, which you still get to determine which and what of it you're actually going to apply to your life, right? Because it's situational, right? Like I said, you could have a moral system that says picking the black grain of rice out of a bowl of rice is the right thing to do, and you can also have a moral system that says that's the wrong thing to do because when it comes to morals, it's subjective, psychological, cultural, and a lot of it comes from religious dogma, right? So someone that is a atheist or different religion to you might look at your moral principles and be like, or your presuppositions, right? Not to get too wordy, but be like, actually, when that's applied over here, that doesn't make any sense, right? So sorry, TikTokers, I'm back now. I was looking at YouTube. Dewey, thanks for the follow. Diz, thanks for the follow. Big Boss, thanks for the share. Diz, are you talking to me or are you talking to Riley? Blaze Wiz says, crazy how copper to steel is longer than steel to nukes timeline wise. Oh, okay, so that's an interesting one as well. Blaze says it's crazy how going from copper to steel is a longer period of time from going to steel to nukes. Right, that's actually a very interesting perspective. I've never even thought about that. I actually don't know the historical timelines as well. I didn't pay that much attention in school, in all honesty. All right, so Startalk says, where I'm from, you don't hear of people stabbing each other. People usually just settle it with fists. Where are you from, Startalk? Startalk. Archie says, in what context of bullying? It could be any, Archie. It could be psychological, emotional, physical, sexual. It could be business wise. It could be community wise. It could be even down to. No, I'm not to like trigger any people like that, but I have to say this. It could be like gang stalking stuff, secret society stuff, mental health kind of stuff, police kind of stuff. Right? It could be anything. You could be getting bullied by the people whose care you're in, right? So it's whatever context it applies to for you, Archie, right? Mr. J goes on to say, well, first comment, thanks for the comment, Mr. J. Bullies are weak people emotionally, so I find the best way to deal with them is a screwdrivering. I'm not quite sure what you're saying there, Mr. J, but I guess in some manner. All right, so Star Talk's talking to Blaze. Toilet Scrub says, I love this game. Thanks for the follow, Star. Uh, Toilet Scrub. All right, I'm going over to YouTube for a second, guys, because important people are talking on YouTube as well, right? I can't ignore. Thank you for the gift, toilet, right? Toilet. All right, so Benjamin says online bullies, you can't knock their block off. It seems to me that bullies tend to need a taste of their own medicine, except some of the so-called cry bullies, not most, but some. He goes on to say some. Oh wait, I need to open the browser. Some they need some, bro. That sentence to make sense, right? Some they need someone to take the time to engage with them and ignore their petty name calling and talk to them. But I agree with that. Like the adults they want to be, right? I agree with that. Um, Mr. Crow, you know, have I been calling you Crow or Mr. Crow, bro? I haven't actually checked your DP. Oh, it's a Mr. Crow. I'm gonna call you Mr. Crow, bro. Um, Mr. Crow says, interestingly enough, about moral being subjective, empathy has been studied in animals as a way to increase survival, and most things seen as morally good are tied to empathy. That's a very interesting perspective, I wouldn't lie. And basically, like, that's another thing that gives humans an edge, being able to psychologically put yourself in the shoes of someone else, even though you can't physically do it, even though you may not even be able to do it well psychologically. That's what gives us an edge as humans over animals, right? But if empathy is shown to exist in animals too, or what we're dubbing as empathy, then there you go, right? It's for the survival of the group, not really the benefit of the individual. Because whenever the individual is faced with a kill or be killed kind of situation, they're very likely to go with survival of their self first, except from some instances, right? Benjamin says to McCrow, depends on the profession. Bullies do pretty well in the military, unfortunately. He smiled after that as well. Yeah, because I didn't. That's what I mean. That's my dyslexia, Mr. Crow. Yeah, I've been calling you McCrow because I just like my mind blanked out the R, so I've been calling you McCrow. Like, yeah, but yeah. You Mr. Crow now. All right, Mr. J says UK firearm laws change because of Dunblane massacre, Dublin, I think, or Dunblane massacre, one school shooting, and we banned handguns. Right? Yeah, that's kind of what I alluded to earlier, Mr. J, but I didn't actually know the name of it. So thanks for adding that in. Uh, Blazewiz says Australia had one case, banned pew pews, never happened again. Uh, Jeff says you guys had bullies. Is that a question or a statement? Mr. J says morality is set by society and its standards, not interaction with society. No, no morality. Says no interaction with society, no morality. I disagree with that, Mr. J. But personally, I think morality doesn't exist. Right, Charlie, thank you for the follow. Uh, Blazewiz says my whole class bullied me. 23 kids for 5 years. What the fuck, bruv? Blazewiz goes and say beat someone once and never got bullied again. I hear that quite often, bro. I do hear that quite often, and it just goes to show the cowardly nature of human beings, right? Once they know there's a threat of retaliation from you, they're less inclined to do it, at least directly to your face.